Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. As that clock is counting down to the Michal Oshman Chabad webinar, I couldn't help but think that time is also running out for each and every one of us to make a difference in the world. My name is Ilana Afrika Bredenkamp. A warm welcome to each and every one of you who's tuned in from all around the world, and especially South Africa, where I'm coming from. Now, our guest for the evening, I am so honored to meet you. Michal, I have got tissues in my book for a reason, because you made me laugh and you made me cry. And this is the first time that we actually meet like this, because before this, we met through Rabbi Masinta. And before this, we met on a quick Zoom while our children were running around in the background and bath time was going down. And today I have the honor to introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone that was watching, Michal Oshman. She is head of culture TikTok Europe and former leadership expert Facebook. That's what her book says, okay? Which is a very beautiful and intimidating title. I have to tell you, Michal, what this title has done. Because our mailer has been circulating in South Africa, I have been inundated with phone calls, inboxes and WhatsApps of people that goes, connect me. And I said, connect here first. So a warm welcome to Michal Oshman. Virtual round of applause. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're so much fun. I'm the one that's honored. Seriously, I now you know you. I feel like I'm like no celebrity. I mean so much more. Ilana, seriously, it's a huge honor, and I'm so excited about this evening and Rabbi Masinter connecting us. It just feels all of it like meant to be, and now we're doing it. So very special.
Tonight is more than just two people connecting. And in this new virtual world that we have had to create, there's so many people tuning in for different reasons. And I want to get to the book, but before I even get there, who is the last person today or this week that has wanted something from you that you think took a lot of chutzpah?
Oh, wow. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. That took a lot of chutzpah. I can't think about there. I've had a few people asking me for things today, but I don't think any of them was with chutzpah. It all was because they need something. Maybe I can help.
I'll tell you what my experience was today. By the way, this is a session where you can also ask questions, and Michal in lifetime, all the way from the United Kingdom, will answer them.
Real. Listen, we are here to keep things real, right? That's the idea.
My chutzpah, I'm not afraid moment today came from where I said to my 6-year-old, Mommy needs you to stop shouting. And as I said that, I realized that in order for my 6-year-old to stop shouting, Mommy needs to stop shouting. And there's a big section in this book right at the back that talks about parenting and our fears and courage around that. But I'm going to start right at the beginning. Why did you write this book?
I'll tell you. I wrote this book because I had to share a discovery that I made. And the only reason I share my personal life in the book, my dealing with mental health challenges, my dealing with anxiety, the things that I'd seen at home, living with my grandparents who were Holocaust survivors and post-traumatized, hearing my grandmother shouting at night from the fear of the Nazi coming again. I only share this personal story of mine because I made a discovery. And the discovery, just one of the best ways to share something you discovered, social media is one way, but also is writing about it. And once I discovered the Jewish wisdom, the universal Jewish wisdom that can be used and applied by anyone and everyone that wants to grow themselves, that changed my life. Because for the first 38 years of my life, now I'm almost 46, for the first 38 years of my life, I thought that it was only certain ways that I could help myself. I had no idea that there was a wisdom that can help me heal. Now that I know it, I want everyone to know about it.
It is amazing that you documented it in a book, having been and worked with Facebook and with TikTok, which I loosely translate in our briefing meetings. I call it tiki toki, just so that I can make fun of something that is actually a whole lot of fun. But your influence stretches much further than this budding career that you have in this amazing book. I mean, people compare you in business to the Brené Brown, the Jewish Brené Brown. You know, they try and box you, but they also try and paint a picture of how you have the ability to change people's lives with what you are busy with. This book could have had any title. And at the moment, this book says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Why did you choose that title? Because what you could have said was, what would you do if you had courage? Or what would you do if you wanted to be strong? Why did you use the title? Because the word afraid is a big word.
It's my word. I grew up on fear. It's probably one of my closest words. You know, I grew up waiting for the next bad thing to happen, expecting it almost. I grew up thinking that we weren't supposed to be happy, that we were supposed to feel quite guilty. I grew up with a fear of disappointing my family, myself, my community, and always trying to be perfect. So when you're really always afraid, A, it evokes anxiety, and B, you don't enjoy life. But I thought that was the only way to live, through fear. So it was quite magical when I started discovering the universal Jewish wisdom. At the same time, I joined Facebook. And this was about 7-8 years ago. And when I joined Facebook, still not feeling, listen, Ilana, we all need to be honest. Whatever you see on people's CV or what they look like,
LinkedIn,
right? She did this, la la la. We all know this, and you and I know this because we've been around a little bit. That you never know what's going on in a person's heart, in a person's family, in a person's mind, the thoughts that go through their head. You just don't know. Most of us just stay at the cover, and my cover, but also my inside was of fear. So when I joined Facebook on the first day of joining the office, I arrived to the reception, and there was this huge thing, a poster on the wall, and it said, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" I knew it was a company. I knew it was a company mantra, but it felt like someone left that sign just there for me. And I realized, wait, like there is a life without fear. Is there an option to wake up in the morning and expect goodness? Is it possible that I am not going to check my children breathing every 3 hours and never ever sleep since the day they were born? Yes, it's possible. What it meant is that I had to stop putting myself in the center, realizing that there's a much bigger, greater, world and divine presence, much greater than I have, and that there's things that I can't control. So slowly, I realized that there is a way to be fearless, but you have to be less in control of some things and more accepting of other things. And that was the beginning of the journey.
We've had many conversations in this space during lockdown, and even, in fact, the last female we interviewed, she came to this session live from Jerusalem, and I said to her, so if everything fails around you, how do you know that you still need to be here and that you still have purpose? And the one thing she said was, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about others. It's about everything else. Here's the other thing that I want to say about your book. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you're just joining us, we're coming to you live from South Africa and the United Kingdom. Michal Oshman, she is our guest for today, head of culture, TikTok Europe, and former leadership expert, Facebook. I have never read a book where in chapter 2 of the book, I'm starting to think, I need to make notes because I've got some work to do. Because most of us as parents, as business owners, as religious people, we're on some kind of path, and some of us feel a little bit lost in this pandemic of craziness. and others feel fairly on track. How did you get it so right? I mean, is Jewish wisdom all that? Is
I don't get ever. I wish my husband was here to hear you. Let's do some house cleaning.
Because if that is, if this is a taste of what Jewish wisdom is about, this book that's £12.99 should be in every home.
I appreciate that, Ilana. Well, let's do some. Let's be honest. First of all, I shared that this book is cutting. It's me, like in the inside of me. It's all that I learned, and there's so much more to learn. But it's all the things that I learned. Please, I get so many things wrong. The book is about getting things wrong, but the book is about. I thought that we were created perfect, and we were supposed to be perfect. I.e., every time we fail, we're failing. Even God. But when I realized that we were wired for these hiccups, we were wired for struggle. When I realized that there's nothing more complete than a broken heart, which is one of my favorite sayings, because when my heart got broken a few times, and one time in a quite severe way, I thought I was broken for life, and unfortunately we all experience heartbreak. If it's someone that leaves us, if it's someone that disappoints us, if it's us hurting ourselves. I thought that I was damaged for life, for the memories that I had in my mind. But when I realized that we were wired in a godly way, because we all have a godly soul. By the way, I had no idea I had a soul. I was walking around in this world for 38 years, having no idea that I actually have a soul, that actually all those things, those memories or those sights, they never ever touched this completely pure part of me and you and everyone else. And then a huge potential opened up. So this book is about, hey, we're all struggling, some more and some less, but we never know what's going on in people's lives and minds. How about we take a minute, we put things under perspective and remind ourselves that there is a wisdom that was written, created to help us navigate life. It's not Sigmund Freud that was 200 years ago here to help me navigate my fear. There is a 3,000-4,000 years history and wisdom to help me navigate. And that was a huge discovery. Yes, I bring it to life in the book in a very everyday, way. So how does this help me with my marriage? How does this help me I have 4 children. I have been often the mother that I didn't want to be. I get angry sometimes, and I was really angry with myself for getting angry, and it was always the same child. So I was going through this vicious cycle. I found myself behaving like a child rather than a mother. So I take these Jewish concepts of how to be a parent in a meaningful way, and I bring them to life. And then I said, you know what? It actually works for me. It works. So I use it. So I want to tell you about it.
I see that we're live on Facebook as well. If you just joined us, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. Speaking to Michal Oshman, and I'm at the point where I want to say this because people in South Africa know that I'm really cheeky, so they take me with a pinch of salt, right? So I hope you in the United Kingdom and for everyone else around the world, you just understand where I'm coming from as well. The word Jewish wisdom, I mean, you use it in the press release, and it's somewhere in the book as well. And most of us, when we hear Jewish wisdom, you see some old guy like Nachmanides, and it's based on Tanya. It's based on actual things that you can use in your everyday, and it's a reminder. How did you study Jewish wisdom and apply it, and don't give away too much, because later on I will ask you about a step-by-step guide of how we can get principles of not being afraid anymore. But how did you know that that's for you? Did you have your own kind of Egypt? You referred in the book about your own Mitzrayim. So did something happen? Sometimes we are on a path, and then something has to happen before you go, yes, I repent, or help, or something. How did you know this is it?
Yeah. So you asked a few things there, Ilana. So first of all, I'm not a rabbi. And I don't fit in any box, which I love. And I have a feeling you're kind of the girl that doesn't want to be fitting in any boxes. So no one can box me. I educated myself, and I also went to classes. So I really believe in doing things together. There was a moment when I was 38, I got to a very dark place in my head, and I had very bad thoughts, and I felt very guilty about them because I had so many things to celebrate. I had a job and a family, and I was healthy physically, but inside I wasn't healthy. And I felt very guilty about it. But you know what? I couldn't get myself out of it. And as much as I tried, and I just couldn't, I also have OCD. So it was all, it was all anyone that suffers from these things know it's so frustrating, and you actually get upset with yourself, but like you can't get out of it. To be honest, at one point, that was my lowest point. All of this fear and anxiety, because I didn't know what to do with myself, I started doing a lot of anti-aging treatments, and I looked horrible. And by the way, I have no issue with these treatments, of course not. But when you do anything too much, you realize, why am I doing it? And I think I was trying to freeze my face, because I was trying to freeze. I was trying to gain control over myself, but I didn't know how to control myself. I didn't understand myself. I only understood what others would say about me. I didn't have that insight. So that was the low moment when I looked myself in the mirror, and I didn't see Michal. I saw someone else, and it really scared me. And that was the point when I knew something needs to change, and it's not going to happen in the therapy room. Now, I was very lucky, blessed that that day was a Saturday morning. And at that point, today I do practice key basic kind of Jewish life principles. I do keep Shabbat, but back then I didn't. And I Googled a few words, and I Googled anxiety and fear and joy. And I also, for some reason, I Googled Judaism, even though at that point of my life, Judaism was just something that I had on my passport in Israel. So, and I ended up meeting a lady, and I started talking with her about my life. And she was like, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I came back from a Beyonce concert. She's like, I don't know who Beyonce is. I don't know what Botox is. But she said, I don't know what, but it sounds like you need to reconnect to yourself. You need to go back in, not out, but in. And then she suggested that I go to a Tanya shiur. And I know I'm very lucky because I'm a Hebrew speaking person. When I heard for the first time my rabbi reading the Tanya with his, in Hebrew, all sorts of probably memories from maybe thousands of years ago just came up, and I burst into tears, but those weren't tears of fear. It were tears of like, I arrived somewhere. And this was about 8 years ago. And since then I've been studying. I'm only this way on the journey, like this tiny step I took, but even a tiny step is a huge step.
The reason why I'm excited about your tiny step is because it's going to be a big step for someone watching. And I can confirm this, that no matter how small we think our talent is, we can change the world with it, especially in a time where people are discouraged and where they are really, really afraid. And when you can pick up a book that says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? It reminds us of every single opportunity that exists, every single opportunity to pick up the phone to someone to say, I'm so sorry. Every opportunity to get rid of really bad friends, every opportunity to fix yourself, your mind, to remind yourself. I have 100 questions, so I'm going to choose 10.
Anna, really, when I hear you, I'm all goosebumps. There's a saying that a person arrived to this world potentially for 80 years just to do a favor for someone else. Like, sometime our purpose here, and I know we put so much pressure on ourselves, and I know that there are people also listening now and watching, and you've been through so much, and my heart goes out to you with third lockdown, and really, and we lost people, and we lost business, and we lost so much, but we cannot lose hope. And I gave a talk to a community a few days ago, and there was a Holocaust survivor there, and their daughter. And their daughter told us how when you entered, and this is like, of course, a story that her father told, that when you entered Auschwitz, and really, I don't want to talk about Holocaust. I want us to keep strong and optimistic, but actually, often you have to look at you have to find more joy when you realize that there's so much meaning that we can't sometimes see. And when people entered Auschwitz, the kind of briefing that they used to get is like, you can survive 3 weeks without food. You can survive 3 days without water, but you cannot survive 3 hours without hope. And we even know in the most horrible of horribles of situations, what keeps us going is hope. And the book is all about that hope. And often the hope comes from our purpose. And purpose doesn't mean, at least not in my mind, this capital P purpose of like, I want to be this CEO, or I want to be this entrepreneur. Like, purpose, as we said before, purpose could be like, doing that thing for someone else. And sometimes your purpose would be to be a mom. And sometimes your purpose would be to be a daughter when your parents are going through a rough time. Sometimes it's to be a sister. But we have to start finding purpose in these everyday things that we do, because they are so purposeful. It's hard. It's easy to forget this, but I really try to remind myself of this.
The discovery. After going to therapy for many years, things had actually gotten worse, not better. But although I declared to myself that I was ready to give up on living a joyful life, deep inside me, I knew there was something else, something bigger than my anxiety. We live in a time where we are in the third wave in South Africa. To give you an idea of where we are at, 2 weeks ago, I had coronavirus. At the moment, I have 6 friends who are going, tomorrow morning when you pray, say my name. We are starting to know people who has this germ, and people's businesses and mental health are affected. And if we rely on hope and on what you write about, how do we find inside of us that deep inside me that you are talking about? Because we want a joyful life too.
Speaking of COVID, when I had COVID a year and a half ago, my daughter was still a baby, and I'm the only one that had COVID in the family. So I was isolated, and the children were out of the room, and my husband for about 7-8 days. She was scratching the door for 7-8 days. I decided not to paint the door. And those scratches, and any parent can imagine how it scratches you inside. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I had all these thoughts. I don't care. I'm gonna give her COVID. I can't. This is crazy. We have been in crazy situations, and thank God I know I'm alive. But so many people have been in crazy situations, and that ended in such a sad way. But it's about, well, it's about faith, and it's in believing. First of all, believing that at some point things will make sense, and if they don't make sense, we're not there yet. I know it's hard to accept this perspective, but that's how I choose to live. I remember when I spoke with my grandparents and I was young, and they were talking a bit about what happened in Germany and in Poland, and I couldn't believe, like, how do you want to even have a coffee in the morning? How does one want to have a coffee in the morning when all of your sibling and your parents were killed in front of you? But life is stronger than anything and everything else. And the soul is stronger because, you know what, the soul is continuing after. So it must give us that, that strength. And I truly believe in this. Does it mean that every day I'm always on the up? Of course not. Do I always look for the good? Yes, Ilana, I'm training myself to look for the good when someone fires me, when someone is not as kind as I wanted to be. I assume that there's that there's a reason, or there's an opportunity here. It's a lot in the head, in the mind.
So you're Jewish, right? I told her I was. I've never, I actually, when I read this, I was actually so annoyed. I have to tell you. Anyway, I'll read it. So what happened was she was doing some, Michal was doing some presentation, and now they divide people into groups. Okay, so this is for you at work. And now she's with someone, she's partnered with someone, and the person comes up to her. Okay, so the person says to her, hey, so you're Jewish, right? Michal answers, yes, I am. I am. I've never met anyone Jewish before, the person says, but I've heard of the Jewish nose, and now I get it. I reached up and covered my nose with my hand. I was shocked at what she had said. There's another section in this where pay was deducted because you are too emotionally involved in your passion. Tell me about that and how being courageous and not being afraid. Because how can you be yourself in a work environment and be successful? But other people are telling you to be someone else in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Don't speak with your hands. Don't have a big nose. Don't be black. Don't be excited. Don't be joyful. Don't be passionate.
Yeah. Don't be low. Don't be depressed. Don't be, yeah. So I'm sorry that I reacted when you say, so you're Jewish, right? I think forever when I hear that line, I'll have a bit of a, sometimes I giggle just from being embarrassed. So the story was, as you said, so I'm originally from Israel, and being Jewish is the only thing I knew, mostly. I had my friends who were Muslim, but I kind of, you know, the being Jewish was just like fine, you know, it was normal, and I had other identity tensions, but not around that. When I arrived to the UK 17 years ago, I had a few I dealt with anti-Semitism. I didn't know it was anti-Semitism. I couldn't brand it, but it happened often in the workplace. So this colleague, when she called out my nose, and she said it loud enough for other people to hear, I came back home, and I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed. But Ilana, I was considering doing a nose job. I thought maybe I can't roll with this nose. And I came to my husband and I said, do you think I should change my nose? And he was like, no, you're crazy. No, this is your nose. I love your nose. But I said, it doesn't fit here. And it was very painful. And then another incident happened when I was very, very curly when I was younger. And when I moved to this country, I was, they call it Jewish curls, whatever, very curly. And I had this interview, and for a job from a recruitment agent. She said, listen, your CV is amazing. All your degrees, amazing. But I felt like she wanted to say one more thing. And I said, what is it? I feel like you want to give me feedback. I thought you wanted to feedback on my English, because my English wasn't, I don't think it's good. It's okay. But she said, it's actually your hair. I really advise you to straighten your hair, and ginger isn't a really good color in this country, because I had ginger curly hair. I was dyeing it like red. And so those two things together, and I changed my hair. And those two incidents together really it affected me, right? It affected who, and I had this, I went to bed after that hair incident. I woke up in the morning and I had a nightmare, because before I woke up, during the night, I had this nightmare of looking at myself and not recognizing who I am. In the dream, I had a non-Jewish nose and a non-Jewish hair. And I got really scared. Am I going to lose my identity in this new country? So, these are like one, and this is like I never thought about this as a big deal until I told this to someone and they said this was, so wrong. But, we all have our stories when someone said to us, don't be that or be like that. And my boss in this bank that I worked for, he said, I'm taking off your bonus because I see that you're emotional and it's not businesslike. And Ilana, I'm not the kind of employee that starts shouting and screaming. But yes, if something was wrong, I wanted to voice it. And he took off my bonus, which was at the time a lot of money for me. And I complied. I changed my behavior and I got a promotion. But it took me years and maturity, I hope, to understand I will never be in a place any longer where my nose is to something, or my hair is to something, or my hands. But sometimes, and we shouldn't feel guilty, sometimes when people say something to us and we kind of take a bit of a step back of our identity, it's only to a really good opportunity to be clearer about our identity.
As parents, there's so much that I want to get to, and soon we'll also get to your questions. Michal Oshman, it is an honor speaking to you. We are chatting about her book, What Would You Do If You Weren't Afraid? There's so much in here, and I want to come back to the principles and the actual things that we can practice in order to not be afraid, in order to take courage and to take our current situation and go, I can do this. Let's educate everyone. I mean, what is Tanya? Take us back to the moment where you heard it for the first time in Hebrew and you said, this is for me. Explain to us.
Oh, this is a huge responsibility, Lana. This is like, Tanya is like,
it's like, in your own words, okay? It's
in my own words. In
your own words. There is no judgment here.
The Tanya is a book that was written by the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe. I'm not going to go into detail. 200 or 250, almost 300 years ago, and this rabbi was the leading of the community, and the community were suffering. They were poor. They were always at risk. They were always the ones that would be kind of beaten for no reason. They had to stay within the community to protect themselves, and they just didn't know what to do. How can we survive life? And I'm talking, Ilana, about basic survival. How do we survive like the day? But also, how do we look at life in a positive way? How do we learn Torah? How do we bring everything to life? How can we live the potential of life that we have how can we live this potential, but we don't know how to do it. We don't know. And also, what should we do in this situation? What should we do in that situation? So this Rebbe, he gave people advice. He was spending all of his days giving advice to people, and at some point he realized, again, in my words, I should collect all this advice and all the teachings from the Torah and the Zohar and all of our big, ancient holy books, and bring it together as a book. And this is my words, a book that heals the soul. I don't like using Jewish psychology because psychology is a new term. It's not an ancient term. But if I had to explain what is the Tanya, it's the psychology, is how to heal your soul. And it touches on all of the things that we feel in life, everyday struggle, heart pain, physical pain, relationship pain. And it's also called the Book of In-Betweeners, which it means that we are not supposed to be perfect. And actually finding that in between, finding that side of you that always tries their best, but sometimes gets it wrong. And then seeing this next moment, as you said before, Ilana, as the opportunity to grow. There's no guilt. There's no looking back. There is always just looking forward and ahead and growing from every opportunity. As someone that grew up only on my memories and blaming my upbringing, think about what a liberation it was. I'm looking forward. I'm not doing all this unfinished business with my parents. By the way, I respect my parents because they did their best. Did they make mistakes? Of course they did.
Yeah.
Do I make mistakes as a mother? Of course I do.
Yeah.
But it's all about allowing and learning how to let go. You mentioned before the idea of your Egypt, right? Which is a very deep spiritual concept in Tanya, in the wisdom, which is we are all chaining ourselves to. And when I say Egypt is in Hebrew, it means Mitzrayim, which means Meitzarim. It means constraints. It means the things that we limit ourselves. It's not really the country Egypt. It's old Egypt, right? And the saying is that Hashem, God, he can get us out of Egypt. But the question is, can we get Egypt out of ourselves? What are we enslaving ourselves to? What are we chaining ourselves? It's often ego. Not often. For me, it's ego.
It's ego.
It's ego, and ego. Yeah, we need to tame our ego. It's a big job to work on your ego. That's why we have a long life, please God, so we can go on this journey.
Speaking of our journey, I see that there's a few questions coming through already, and I really want to get into some of them. Is internal struggle a bad thing? Is one of the questions. What would you say to that? Is internal struggle a bad thing?
Nothing is a bad thing. If it looks bad, so we haven't understood it yet, but I'm not going to be all philosophical. So I learned that we were also wired for the internal struggle. And when I mean wired, I mean created, right? So if we are supposed to go through this I love the word tension, Ilana. I know some people hear the word tension is like, ugh, like conflict. I live very comfortable with the word conflict and with the word tension. And I think struggle as well, that internal struggle. Based on my own learning, we have these, good, bad inclinations, but it doesn't mean that we're bad. It means that there are areas of within ourselves, let's say our ego, that sometimes navigates us to make like the wrong decisions or not the right decisions. So that struggle, I think it's healthy. It helps you grow. What you need to have is self-awareness. And self-awareness, it doesn't self-awareness is something that you decide to do for yourself. So for example, you just mentioned with your daughter, or so you had self-awareness. You took a moment and you said, what just happened here? I said something, she said something. I'm taking a minute and I'm just thinking about it for, and really digging in. I also think that to be able to grow, you have to dig into moments and to dig into your attention. So what is, for the person that asked on the call, what is the internal struggle that you're dealing with at the moment? First of all, normalize it, because there's the 100 million people that are going through a similar struggle. And then how can you overcome that struggle? Who can help you on it? But I think one of the first things is to normalize it.
It's a lot to do with mindfulness, right? Where you don't judge what you are feeling, but I love how you also take it to the practical, that we're going to have to solve it eventually. There's a section in your book that also speaks around therapy, and you say it outright. I mean, I put a marker there, but I'm just going to loosely translate it. There is a section where you say, even going to therapy for years, it's not really something that helped or assisted you, because it kept taking you back to the past instead of focusing on how you want to go forward. And that's one of the things you mentioned now. Anyone who's watching who wants to go ahead and wants to go forward, but you keep holding a grudge or you keep holding a problem that is actually keeping you back, how do we move forward? Because it's much nicer and easier to hold on to the past, because the mind doesn't forget.
So hard to take that step forward. And by the way, Ilana, I believe in therapy. I think, and I know today there's much more, as you said, therapies with mindfulness and with, much more spiritual, or allows you to really look at yourself holistically. So I think what therapy really gave me is the ability to ask questions of myself, and really challenge myself and be curious about life and myself. I think what you're talking about, and I know in the book, at the end of every chapter, there's a coaching section. Listen, I believe in doing, okay, you think about something, you choose to believe with it, but what are you going to do about it? I really believe in action, and so does the Jewish wisdom. So one of the things that I talk about in one of the chapters in the coaching section is asking my reader the question, or inviting them to ask themselves, what is one memory, one experience, one thing that happened to you in life that you can possibly allow yourself to let go of? Sometimes it includes forgiving someone. And sometimes it includes forgiving yourself, which is sometimes harder than forgiving someone else. If you can let go by forgiving, and listen, sometimes horrible things happen to us and they're unforgettable, forgivable. But for those subjects or those experiences that you can forget and you can let go of, maybe try doing that. And that letting go often releases you to take the one step forward. You need to let go, right? Something needs to go for something to take, right? Because it's such a pull and push, right? So if you let go of something, then maybe you can take that step more easily forward. There's a beautiful song in Hebrew that is called, it's about crossing your bridge. And in Hebrew, it's Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzar me'od, va'ikar lo lefachad klal. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge. And the main and most important thing is not to fear at all. It's the one step, Ilan. I coach hundreds of people, or by now, maybe I coach thousands. Probably not thousands, but many people. Often people know that they're on they're just that there's a bridge ahead of them, and they know that the other side of the bridge is the better place for them. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's what they do, whether it's stop pretending, and they feel instinctively there's no risk in the other side of the bridge and they belong there. But it's so hard to take that first step. And what I love about the wisdom and about the Tanya, it is about empowering yourself to take that step. It's only forward that we can go. We're not, we can't go back all the time.
There's so many questions that are coming through. There's one that talks about, you can think about this one in the meantime while I ask you the next question. This one wants to know, how are you able to balance work? And tell us about what you do for a living and how you balance professional and your family life. While you think about that, in your book where we talk about family and children and our parents, the day you were born is the day God decided that the world was missing you. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Isn't that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful? You are here because the world needs you. Ask yourself in the context of parenting and being a parent, what is your role? What are you here to do and to be? I just wanted to read that while you have an opportunity to get to the next, which is your family. I mean, how do you balance what you do? I know what you do. She's got many degrees. She's got a really cool job. She's very busy. She only sleeps 4 hours a night. But according to our question, tell us about your work, your position, and also what you do professionally and how you juggle professional and personal life.
So I am not a fond of work-life balance. I'm a fond of work-life integration. So, and I share this with Rabbi Masinter because there is, listen, if someone can help me find the balance, I'll send the address on Zoom. But I really don't believe in like this balance with work and life. What I do is when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, after I say Modani, I ask myself, okay, what am I nailing here today? Like, what am I here to do today? Not tomorrow, not in 10 years. What am I here to do today? Today. Sometimes I have something massive at work and I will pivot to that thing because it's important. I need it for my clients, for my team, for the business. And that day I will see less of the kids. Listen, I don't like BSing. I'm keeping things real. And some days I wake up and it's the day that my son has his biggest football match. And my head is only thinking about being there on time, sending him something before to encourage him before I see him on the match. And that day I'll pay less attention to something else. But I won't pretend like I'm 100% here and no, there's 100% of me and I'll navigate parts of me. Now it's true that I had to make many failures in life, trying to be lots of things to know that actually I have to integrate. So that's one thing. What do I do? I love culture. I love being curious about people, about their upbringing, about their values, about where they were born, what do they believe in, what matters to them, who are they? So I'm very lucky to be doing that at work as well. So as the head of culture for TikTok, and now I'm also hopefully I get you through work, because I'm also going to work. My region is getting bigger, and I'll get to work with you guys, I hope, as well, from
Yes.
a point of view. But I get this. I'm honored, I'm privileged to be able to think about our company culture, TikTok company culture across the region of Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and how we build a company which is internally and externally, so that the app and internally is an inclusive, meaningful place to be for everyone, where everyone can be themselves and feel good about themselves and feel safe and feel respected. And that for me is a mission. I also had diversity and inclusion, which is obviously part of culture. And I feel honored to be able to live my mission in my personal as well as my professional life at the moment.
Some other comments coming through. Work-life integration, brilliant, with a big smile. Thank you. Know him in all your ways. Thank you so much, Rafael. Also had one anonymous attendee has a question saying, by reflecting on one's situation and struggles, how would one use this change to change your perspective and hopefully implement that attitude into change? So I'm going to read it again.
Yes.
By reflecting on one's situation and struggles,
Yes.
how would one use this change to change your perspective and hopefully implement that attitude into the change?
Okay. I don't know if I'm answering this anonymous person, but I'll tell you how I'm hearing it. One of the things I learned is that nothing is random. Everything, that it's like all of this world is like, it's one big, like we don't,
Yeah.
we only see, we don't understand this world really, right? But there's a big master plan, and everything that happens, it's not by chance. It's no coincidence. I thought I was born to this family by chance. I was this. So I think once you adopt this mindset that everything has a reason and nothing is by chance, first of all, you give like immediately you kind of respect your life a little bit more, because you say, oh my gosh, so this is happening. Like, what? Okay, so what's my role here? So that's like a mindset shift. And then if anything happens for a reason, then why am I in this situation now? But from a positive point of view, not I'm in this situation. I remember sometimes when something really bad happened to me, I said it's a punishment. Nothing, I don't believe in this. It's a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's a situation in life. And the only thing that I can ask myself, how am I navigating from this moment onwards? So I think, listen, Ilana, these are big requests that we ask of ourselves, and no one wants hardship. If we're already facing a difficult situation, what can you do, anonymous viewer? What can you do to navigate this situation forward? Maybe it's having an honest conversation. Maybe it's saying sorry. Maybe it's changing something in your behavior. Maybe it's exploring a blind spot. So many of us have blind spots. We sometimes hurt. We don't know what we're doing it. Maybe it's about letting go. Maybe it's in your head that something is happening now. Maybe it's not as bad as you think it is. Maybe you have to say that out loud to someone you trust and test it with them.
One of the things that we discussed previously, and going through your book, you can see how, together with the life lessons that you've learned in business, how from your past you are trying to become a changed person, a great and better parent through these journeys of Jewish wisdom. If you could take us back, I don't want to say this, but I'm just going to, because I read the book. Your past is really bad. And I say that because the book opens with, I don't want to spoiler alert this, but the book starts with where you as a child experienced two parents who in themselves needed to grow a lot. And I hope they're watching tonight. Shalom, hello. And at the time you saw dead people. Yeah. And you were really confused. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional.
Oh,
And and that was your normal. That was your normal. And to see that there is hope, that there is potential, that there is room for growth for someone with a past that was so difficult and entangled, to where you are now, to write at the end of the book, to be able to ask, what would you do if you weren't afraid? What would I do if I weren't afraid? That is really powerful. And so there's a lot of people who are not 40 and how old are you? 38. Who is still living in their past fear. What can we say to them tonight so that they can also feel like there is hope to come from their past fear, whether they're seeing dead people, whether they're seeing their past, whether they're seeing hurt, whether they're seeing abandonment, to where they can be today and feel free. Because here's the other thing. In this book and in one of your interviews, I also read that even if they said, Michal, let's strip away all your problems.
Yes.
Do you still, would you continue through life without your problems, or would you go through life with your problems and do self-work?
So, Ilana, one day I'll get a chance to hug you, even if I have to open South Africa myself. I will have to come and find you and give you a huge squeeze of love. I'm really grateful for the empathy you're showing now. People, my life and my challenge is nothing compared to, we know what millions and millions of people go. But for me, that was my life and that was what all I knew, right? But obviously in perspective, and we shouldn't compare pain, but in perspective, no one did anything to me deliberately. No one wanted to hurt me. And I have friends that have been hurt at home. My parents did the best that they could. They were brought up for survival. You see, so this warmth that we now try to show our kids, it's just a different generations. It's a different upbringing. So I accept that. And I love my parents, and they gave their blessings to this book. And by the way, my parents and I, we keep Shabbat together now. We have these conversations. Everything's open. It's a blessing to be able to go with your parents on a full circle. But what I want to ask people is, like, often we wait to solve things. We wait. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Like, we have to own our lives. And yes, when you've been through, and if someone's watching now and you're going through something really, really hard, I don't want to say this too shall pass, because that sounds like, undermining pain, but like, look inside, find your soul, find yourself, find a friend, find that place in your head that knows that you can overcome this. And if you feel like you can't overcome this, then find that person and tell them. And by the way, I really believe in this, that you're feeling at the moment that you can't do this. I had no one to talk to for many, many, many years. That led to very dangerous places in myself. As a parent, one of the things I try to do with my children is to normalize all these tensions that one of the persons, that it's normal. It's normal. It's part of life. We have to go over these things, and we have to overcome these things together. And I think when you go to a class, when you go to a shiur and you study spirituality, just by the fact that you're together, even on a Zoom. Listen, I can see your soul through your eyes now, Ilana. I see you. And you're amazing.
There's so many amazing questions here. I actually don't even know where to start. Okay, so people are asking where they can find the book. The book will be available, and you can watch Chabad South Africa's page. They're going to give us details, but it's already on shelf. And I see there's a poll. Purchase the book. What would you? Yes, I would like a copy. Yes, please. There's a poll that's coming up at the moment. It's going to be available, so keep watching Chabad South Africa's platform. These are quick fires because I want to get to the questions quickly, and I'm so sorry because it would be so unfair to just go through the. Okay, Amy says, I'm at the start of my career, so what is your advice for me? What would you have told your younger self?
Yes, sorry, what's her name?
Amy.
So first of all, Don't make the mistake that I did. I decided to go and study law to make my parents proud. I have zero interest in law, and I never wanted to be a lawyer. So first thing, if you can take a minute and find out what are your natural talents, what are you passionate about. One of the ways to do this, to take a piece of paper, to draw a line in the middle, to say, I love, I loathe. Remind yourself of the week that's passed and say, what were the situations that you loved, or what are the things that you enjoyed? Put it under the love. Then what are the moments or the things that you loathed? Put it under the loathe. Look for a job that falls under the category of love, and don't let your ego be in the way. That's what I would say.
Ryan says, is there one thing we can take away from the book, wisdom, in terms of leadership growth? What is it?
They were all
Ryan, you have to read the book. There's amazing stuff.
So Ryan, one of my leaders that I follow is the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and his leadership is still here, even though physically he's not with us for the last 27 years. And he very strongly believed and advocated that each of us, we are each leaders, capital L, lower L, whatever you call it, leaders. You could be a leader of your family. You can be a leader of your community. You can be the leader, that kind person that always knows, you are a leader. Sometimes I spend time with senior people, and like, they're called all those big things. Doesn't make them leaders. They have titles. It doesn't make them leaders. Leaders are people that are leading an idea, a principle. They're connecting with others. Yeah, you're a leader, Ryan.
I have here one from Vanya. She says, I'm passionate about people. If I want to start my journey of culture, where do you suggest I start? Currently, I am reframing what work looks like, and I'm soul searching to figure out what I want to do.
Message me. That's the easiest way, because eventually they're going to message me but I think culture is about care, and it's about curiosity. So, think about those opportunities where you can show care and curiosity and help others grow. That would be because you can be a culture lead in a school. You can be a culture lead in a shop, right? It's about celebrating people and their behavior, and culture is glue. In my opinion, it's what glues people together. So think about who you'd like to glue together around important principles. Oh, I love this.
There's a few questions that are coming through around social media. We actually deal a lot with this with our parenting topics that we do on other platforms. But now I'm not going to ignore it, because there's about 5 questions. What's the right age do you recommend for children to start using social media and TikTok? So there's a few people that have asked similar questions.
So first of all, on TikTok, there is a legal age. So that's not my opinion. I would say, like anything and everything in life, our job as parents is to help to teach our children how to deal with life. And yes, social media is part of life. So my role as a parent is about explaining what is social media, what's a good use of it, what's a bad use of it, and go on that journey with my children. I want to say, as a parent, I love boundaries. I'm not this like, yeah, you can have everything whenever you want to parent at all. The values at home are very clear. The expectations are clear. The love is endless. But I also believe in healthy boundaries. So, a very quick answer would be, maybe you can not start with all the social medias, maybe kind of think what's better or what's right for your child and what they're trying to get out of social media would be the first thing I would say. Personally, my teenage daughter, she is on TikTok. She loves positive body imaging and cooking for survival, because her mother doesn't cook. And positive body imaging is because it's a topic that she cares about deeply, and she promotes within our.
We were supposed to be on for 45 minutes, and I kept you here, and I'm sorry I did, but I'm also not sorry, because right now, with our travel restrictions, I can say that I've been to the UK and I got to have tea with you. So it's really been great and been real to have you here. I would recommend
to balance your
my water is in my child's sippy cup. It's the only thing I could find. So You have to read this book if you want to understand how you can change things in your own life. In my own situation, I looked at this and I told myself, how can I change something if I had to do something that I'm not afraid of? And this week, I got rid of an agency that was really bad for my business. And I was like, I'm not afraid. So I told Michal this, and she was like, you better have done the right thing. And I was like, oh boy, it feels good. So thank you for teaching people that we don't need to be afraid. But what would you do if you weren't afraid? Get the book. It looks like this. She's wearing gold and she is worth more than diamonds, gold, gems. And I'm saying everything that I can see, and jelly babies. She's worth more than jelly babies. Michal, if there's one thing that all of our business leaders, our parents, as well as every person that wants to find their culture or their God can take home, what would it be?
The day you were born was the day the world needed you. And today is the day that the world needs you too. So what are you here to do today? Small, big, medium, do it.
Yes. Follow us at Chabad South Africa. And also someone mentioned that the book is also available on Loot. Michal Oshman, head of culture, TikTok Europe, and former leadership expert Facebook. What would you do if you weren't afraid? My name is Ilana Afrika Bredenkamp. Michal.
I love
Shalom, Chavara.
You are a new sister. I love you. Thank you, everyone. I mean, I didn't see people. You're in my heart. I mean, love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
You too. Bye, everybody.